Welcome everybody. It's episode 541 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Tom Aspinall, aka Sean Sheehan, joined today by the greatest singer this side of Manchester, Liam Gallagher, aka Ian O'Neill, for a special Halloween edition of the SevereMMA podcast. If you're listening to this, you probably need to watch, because me and Ian are here and we're dressed up. Ian is currently balancing a tambourine on his head. I think you can probably guess how I'm dressed up. Ian, how are you? How are things? Are you good?
I'm feeling biblical, Shawnee. Feeling biblical.
Are you going to roll with it now through this through this podcast?
Oh, I'm going to drop as many Oasis puns and lyrics into my assessment and analysis now for the next hour or so.
I absolutely love it. I don't know why, because I was thinking, like, my belt is falling over. I was thinking there the other day, like, oh, we should do, because I like looking at all the other shows and they're doing costumes and stuff. I was like, there's probably plenty of MMA costumes you can do. And then I was thinking, like, I've thought about this too late. How the fuck am I going to do this?
This was like late Friday when we came up with this. So, like, I didn't even have enough time to get an MMA costume together. I just had to go with something real quick and easy. So, yeah, I think we pulled it off. You pulled it off anyway, Shawnee. You definitely did there. Yeah.
I saw you. Did you send me? I saw a picture of you. I think you sent me a picture of you in the costume. I was like, "Fuck it, we're doing costumes. I'll get something together." So I was. I had a few different ones in mind. Like I was going to cut my hair and do fucking Chuck Liddell or Dan Hardy dye it red or something. But I said, you know what? I'll go a little bit easier and we'll go with Tom Aspinall. So we've the whole rig out here. Also
very current eventish as well. You know what I mean?
Very hard to be. It's actually very hard for me to record the podcast like this. Oh, lie. Okay. So if you're just listening, I have an eye patch on, I have a belt, and I have cage warriors gloves. And I'll tell you what, we're about to get into this, but myself and Ian were talking about it before, and I know Ian was saying you have to break them in. These gloves are hard as fuck. Like my fingers are. Which way am I? It's hard to put a fucking fist on them, as you said, but like, it's also hard to put them straight up, do you know, if you're doing that one, do you know, so it's like, it almost wants you to put them fucking outwards. So, I don't know, I'm obviously an amateur in all the glove game and all, but you can understand why people get poked in the eyes, Ian, couldn't you? These gloves are not the...
Justice for Tom Aspinall, that's what we say.
Justice for Tom Aspinall. Right, let's it feels weird to just get into the podcast.
Keep it Halloween for a minute. Did you get many trick-or-treaters?
We did now. I'm in an estate, right? So there's a lot of people here that come from the countryside and they just like drop off their kids, and in there you can see them driving around the car. So it's just like random kids from out the country are going around here. So we probably got maybe 10, I'd say, which is like years ago you might get 100, literally like 100 people coming to the door. But yeah, it's very few. What's it like over in Canada? Is it a big trick-or-treaty?
Everyone gets their houses done up and you know, they have loads of ghosts and all of that stuff now. So some houses buy into it, other houses don't. There's actually one house close by where one of my friends lived, and he had a Mike Myers kind of, I don't even know what you could call it, statue monument, and it was huge. It took up the whole yard as well, so they really get into it. We had 50, but it was down from last year. But we live on like a little kind of a cul-de-sac in the neighborhood too, so it's like perfect for kids who are just rocking around. But yeah, it was less than last year, but then the World Series was on as well, so I'd say maybe a lot of people might have been stuck in watching that too.
That was pretty amazing, wasn't it? Fucking Yamamoto coming back in. That lad is unreal, like, you know.
It was really exciting. Now, you know, as a long-term Blue Jays fan since October 2025, I know I thought that this was going to be our year. But no, Yamamoto came in. The Dodgers did the business last night and it was very disappointing. But I mean, pure drama at the end of that game now. I mean, I'm not that big into baseball, but Jesus, drama. It was really cool to watch. It was edge seat stuff.
It's unreal. I started watching it last year and tweeting along and stuff, and like it was the Mets and the Dodgers in the World Series last year, and I was like, one of these two are going to kind of become my team. And I don't know if I'm taking off one of my gloves here. I don't know if I necessarily picked one of them to be honest. But like the fact that no, leave that on. No, you can take it off. You can take it off. The fact that the Mets got knocked out early and are terrible. I think the Dodgers are my team now. So great to see my guy Shohei Ohtani, and there's a lad called Sheehan on the Dodgers as well, which is fantastic. So I have to support him. So shout out to all our friends in LA. Commiserations to all our friends over in Canada and Montreal. Who is the Blue Jays? Where are the Blue Jays from? Toronto?
Toronto. But the only baseball team, obviously after the Montreal Expos were folded, like, so I mean all of Canada, it's some business that they have going on, like, because the whole of Canada really supports the Blue Jays. So it was kind of a big hype here for the last week or so, even the last couple of weeks with all the playoffs. So it was good to be a part of it, but disappointing in the end.
Indeed. All right, let's talk some mixed martial arts. And I have an eye patch, so I suppose it'd be remiss of us not to immediately start with another heavyweight debacle around the same time. What was this, 359? I think the other one was like 435 or something. So in the first round, this didn't end via eye poke, so it was just a normal KO. But this was a complete and utter mess, and we'll get into that in a second. But like, I put out something last night, and I stand by it. And this is weird saying this with an eye patch on, but like, for the last fucking week, there's been so much nonsense going around about this whole, Aspinall Gan thing, and like, I think we all agree that there's like, the penalization for fouls and MMA and stuff, it just doesn't work. And some people think, we should just have points take, and I just think you can't take points because of the scoring system, but then you can't really change score. It's a whole mess. But what we have at the moment is what we have, right? But there's a lot of people talking nonsense about like retrofitting it around what we have at the moment, and it's just not going to work. We need like a whole new way of doing it. But so after last week, I saw, Adam Catterall from TNT Sports. Now, in fairness, he does admit that he is a friend of Tom Aspinall, but he, people call him a journalist and stuff. Like, he's coming out and he's saying that last week should have been a disqualification, and any poke that ends a fight like that should be a disqualification. I hear other people saying this as well. I see about points being taken and all of this. And like, if we get to this week and we look at the Waldo Cortez Acosta Ante Delia, like, people want that to be a disqualification as well. But then it was restarted and the fight ends via knockout to Waldo Cortez Acosta, and people are happy anyway. So like, you either adhere to the protocol, want to follow the rules, or you don't. And if you don't, well, you're not worth talking to, because you should be looking for change instead of saying, this is what should have happened, when that's not part of the actual rule set itself. So my big point here, and I'll draw it over to you, Ian, and we'll go through it piece by piece, I suppose, is because there was so much nonsense talk last week about an incident that was really officiated perfectly by Jason Herzog and ended exactly the way it should be, and very, very unfortunate. No one wants to see a fight in that way. Jason Herzog, as we said last week, did his best to try to restart it if possible. It wasn't possible. Now that we, and perfectly done, and everyone criticized it all week, now that we have an actual genuine fuck up and like a genuine referee mistake after mistake after mistake, now is where we need real criticism. But because we criticized something that didn't necessitate criticism or didn't warrant even criticism last week, criticizing it's like the boy who cried wolf. It's like, we spent the last week, or I didn't, well, some people did spend the last week crying about something that wasn't actually an issue in terms of the way it was handled. It's an issue in terms of those incidents in our sport, no doubt about it. But now that we have a real issue, is it just going to be because I see a load of people like on Twitter and replying and stuff saying, this proves Tom quit, and this is, this should have been, this was the right way to handle it, and this is how it should have been handled last week. And even Michael Bisping on the commentary said it was 100% correct, 100% correct. Just absolute nonsense altogether. And we'll get into it and we'll break it down piece by piece here in a second, Ian. But what did you think of the incident, the handling of it, I suppose? And what I was saying there about, like, is it even possible for people to go back now and analyse this correctly after the mess of what was made of it last week?
Yeah, well, I think there was two pieces of analysis that were kind of floating around, and one was what you said was a disqualification, and the other one was, that Tom quit or took a way out. And I think both of those pieces of analysis were wrong. Now, obviously, we've seen fighters take eye pokes before, And they've continued. We've seen it last night, and we've seen what happened there. But I think both of those pieces of analysis were unfair. When I saw what happened last night, Johnny, I messaged you immediately, and it was just ironic that it happened with Andy D'Elia, because D'Elia trains out of the Aspinall camp, and I would have been very, very curious to hear what some of the thoughts and opinions would have been on that finish. I imagine we would have heard cockroaches from the Tom Aspinall camp and everybody else after that too. But it's just unfortunate circumstances, and I think the story that we have to tell about last night was the incorrectness of how it was handled. If the fight was called off and then it was restarted and then D'Elia lost, the fight should have been a no contest last night due to the eye poke. It was stopped. Waldes Acosta was allowed to rest for a couple of minutes. Andy D'Elia thinks that he's gone and won via TKO. Obviously not in the right mindset at all. Obviously switched off when the fight comes back on. And what happens? He eats a big shot and he gets finished. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, like, have we gotten to the stage now in mixed martial arts where we're just making up the rules as we go along to fit the interest of fairness? No, it was a human error last night. We've seen plenty of human error inside of the cage. Unfortunately, this year from referees, it's been a pretty bad year. And it was absolutely crazy to me. I, in somewhat disbelief, but somewhat non-disbelief that something like this could happen, because, Mark Smith, I think he didn't handle the situation well. And he has been in kind of some sticky situations inside the cage before. I mean, for once upon, I'm going to get a cheeky Oasis pun in here. Dominic Cruz once accused Keith Peterson of maybe being on cigarettes and alcohol, but I think he would have been saying the same about Mark Smith last night, given what played out. But maybe he wouldn't have either, because there seems to be a little bit of a lack of understanding of what the rule set should be sometimes in the commentary booth as well. And I think that's a shame, because that's what people listen to. And I think that kind of that piece of production in the UFC needs to get right. But I think, look, it should have been a no contest. It was unfortunate. And we just made up the rules to kind of fit the narrative, and it was crazy. Absolutely crazy. Where else would it happen?
It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's funny as well, because I put out the Dean Barry clip during the week of him getting disqualified for an eye poke or an eye gouge or whatever it was at the time. And I put, literally, I said on it, this happened because it was a talking point at the time. And here we go again. If this exact incident had happened 2 weeks ago, this would have been a no contest. I have no doubt in my mind about it. Because this happened with Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gann last week, the decision was made to placate to the idiots, right? To placate to the people going on, their podcasts or going on Twitter and saying that should have been a disqualification, or the other side of it, the people saying, oh, Tom should have fought. It's to placate to that nonsense. They didn't want the same thing to happen again, right? And I think Mark Smith is a horrendous referee. He's made mistake after mistake after mistake, and he's a populist type of guy. We've heard him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's just one of those guys. Who was there to stop him? Who was there to cut all of this out? Where's the commissioner stepping in and going, it's against the rules to restart it? And look, let's go through it piece by piece, I suppose. So, the fight was going on, and even enough fight, I suppose. D'Elia probably a little bit ahead, but not too much. There was an exchange in the middle. Now, I do have an issue with this one compared to last week, because Cyril Gann last week, I'll show my glove, he had his hands up. D'Elia had his fingers straight out, and he poked him in the eye. Now, it was, again, a little bit like last week in that it was in the middle of an exchange. It's very quick. It happens in the snap of a finger, and he pokes him. Mark Smith, his first mistake, he didn't see it. What are you looking at? You're looking right at it. How did you not see that? Waldo Cortez Acosta immediately held his eye and goes, at that stage, you have to step in there and go, let's see if it's an eye poke. Let's go to the video replay. At that stage, if it is an eye poke, as it was, you give him, his few minutes to recover. If he can recover, if not, it's a no contest. If you can recover, you start off and we've no problem. So that was his first mistake. Then, obviously, that was a mistake that let the fight go. The fight continued. He didn't think it was an eye poke, or he didn't see an eye poke, or whatever the situation was. The fight went on. And Ante Delia won via TKO. And there's some people out there, because we talked about it last week, Dan Merglada, that he didn't wave his hands over his head like this to stop the fight. Here's mistake number 2 from Mark Smith. He didn't do that. He should have done that, because he absolutely stopped that fight for a TKO. Now, there's some people out there, going, well, that proves it wasn't stopped for a TKO KO. 2 wrongs don't make a right, because he simply didn't do it. Go back and watch the footage. He says, fight back to Waldo Cortez Acosta after the poke while he's getting beaten up. That is not you don't tell someone to fight back if they just got eye poked and you're about to stop it and check. You're telling someone to fight back if you're about to end the fight, and then he steps in and does end the fight. If you think that's not a TKO, you're a fucking idiot, and your opinion is ludicrous, like absolutely ludicrous. There's no doubt about it that's a TKO. No doubt about it whatsoever. And from that point, when the fight is finished, you can go to the replay and see if something in the fight ending sequence was wrong, was illegal, whatever you want to call it, and then retrospectively go, oh shit, we made a mistake, that has to be a no contest. Once that happens, you cannot restart the fight. It's written in the rules that the fight cannot restart once you've stopped it. He absolutely stopped it, and he restarted it, so completely incorrect. Another dead giveaway about how he stopped the fight. Everyone came into the octagon. That does not happen if the fight is paused and you want to check someone's eye, or you want to check a low blow, or you can bring in the doctor, of course. But there was a stool in there. He had water. There was doctors. Everyone was, half of fucking Las Vegas was inside there. And then they drag them all out and go, oh, he can continue. It was an eye poke. Let's get it going again. Completely and utterly wrong protocol. This should be it should have been a no contest yesterday. Ante Delia should absolutely go and challenge this and try to get no contest. Will he? He probably won't, because they're an absolute bunch of idiots in the commissions over there, and they never change anything. And another big thing, a lot of people are saying, and I agree with them somewhat. Wouldn't you feel a little bit bad for Ante Delia, or sorry, for Waldo Cortez Acosta, because he was the one that got poked. And if you were to make it a no contest now, you'd actually be taken away from a win from the guy who got poked. And that's a fair comment. But the protocol was incorrect. The protocol was completely and utterly incorrect. The world didn't just stop at him getting poked. He got poked. The fight went on. The fight ended via TKO, KO. And as I said it on Twitter last night, and I saw Dan Tom and a few other people saying as well, whenever you're thinking of these decisions as well, think about the safety of the fighter. And it doesn't matter that he went out and he knocked out Ante Delia afterwards. He was just TKO'd. Waldo Cortez Acosta got TKO'd, and you put him back into a fight minutes later. What, are we thinking of the safety of the fighter here in any way, shape or form? What if it was the other way around, and it could easily have been Ian? What if Ante Delia went out and he knocked down Waldo Cortez Acosta and knocked him out after he'd just been TKO'd? That's a totally different situation. And when we're adjudicating these things and we're talking about them, we can't just talk about the situation at hand. We have to talk about all the situations involved, because that's a very, very important part of it too. And this was just wrong. This was just wrong. How it was adjudicated. You could no. I absolutely understand if you're out there and you're one of those people that said, look, justice was served in the end for Waldo Cortez Acosta. Grant, no problem. You can have that opinion, but we have to go by the rule book here. And I understand we want a bit of common sense around it now, but there was no common sense here anywhere. This is just mistake after mistake after mistake from Mark Smith. Was there anything I said there, Ian, that you disagree with or anything? Because I thought it was just a mess all around.
Yeah, a big mess, a lack of ability to control the situation. As the referee, you have to clearly communicate what's going on. And the way you kind of broke down the sequence of events there as well, from Mark Smith asking Waldo Acosta to fight back, to the lack of understanding about what was going on after the stoppage as well, even when they were looking at the video replay. And then I just don't know how they came up with the idea to just restart this fight. Like there's we don't see it too much in mixed martial arts, but there's definitely, Shawnee, I think, a serious grounds for appeal here. Especially if D'Elia is on his, I guess if he's on his show win money, he wouldn't get his win money anyway if it was a no contest, I would say. But it's just unfortunate because we talk about it when there's mistakes made in fights and how it was a close fight. D'Elia was in control; he was closing the distance, but how switched off he was when that fight came back on, I think, was very clear about 20 seconds in when he found himself flat on his back taking punches and end up kind of needing the ref to kind of save him. After the, I just don't know how we've gotten here where we're making up the rules as we're going along. I think that it's just, I think you should appeal this. I think that's the only thing you can do, appeal it and overturn it. And then you're just going to be saving face after that. And I don't think it's going to happen though, Sean. Do you think it's going to happen?
I don't know. Like I saw people talking about the Jake Matthews one a couple of weeks ago as well. And that should have been overturned, but it wasn't. But for Nevada, this is, see, the problem with this is, right, if the right people said the right things in the next week, I think it might be overturned. And I mean like Ariel and Luke Thomas and people like that, and even Dana White in the press conference. I don't think he was at the event last night and stuff. Like if there was an actual groundswell of truth around this, just bare facts around this, I think it could be, yeah. But like, I don't think there will be, because I think people don't know their arse from their elbow a lot of the time with this sort of stuff. Really, because like, just look at the reaction last week. And you can't go back and now adjudicate this one, because like you'll be completely contradicting yourself for a lot of people on what happened last week. So because of that, I don't think there will be a groundswell of people that really matter talking about this, because it absolutely should. And like as well, again, that thing about it being unfair to Waldo Cortez Acosta, absolutely, he got poked in the eye. It's unfair to him from that point on. And it would be unfair, absolutely, again, to take away his win from him. He didn't do anything wrong, but Mark Smith did. It's again one of those things we've seen it before. Fights that like restarted, or the fight didn't go the extra few seconds at Dan Murglietta last week. None of that's anything got to do with the fighters themselves. But like, is it fair on Ante D'Elia that fight was restarted and he got knocked out when he had cooled down and he wasn't expected to go into fight and his mindset was out of it? No, but like people are saying, well, he poked someone in the eye so he deserves it. That's not fair either. Like, just because you poke someone in the eye, it was pure accidental as well, we all know. Like, it doesn't mean you deserve to be fucking knocked out and you deserve to like lose a fight. Absolutely not. So what those two fighters deserve, they deserve to have an official call it right down the middle, adjudicate it properly, use the proper protocol, and let the best man win at the end of the day. And if we have to have a no contest, have a no contest. None of those things happened. Absolutely none of those things happened. So
where does Mark Ratner stand in all of this, Shawnee? Like, I know he works for the UFC, or like he used to work for the Nevada State Athletic Commission. He's now kind of just an independent adjudicator for the UFC now. Like, does he have any power to step in there and say, hey, this isn't right?
No, well, this was in Nevada last night, so it would have been the Nevada commissioners there, and I think it was Herb Dean outside the ring, wasn't it, and stuff. Like, who the power would be now would be, I believe it's Jeff Mullen as the Nevada State Athletic Commissioner, the old job of Mark Ratner, basically.
Yeah.
So he, like, if it went to him and the appeal went to him, like, that's the guy who should make this adjudication and turn this result around, because it was absolutely wrong in every way, shape, or form. And I know, like, there's some people out there, and I'm sure they bet on D'Elia, and some people bet on Waldo Cortez Acosta, and some people are just watching the fight as fans and think it's fair play, the guy who got poked. But please, we have to leave that aside for a second. Our opinions and our we have to look at the facts of all of this, and that's to your point there. Like I think you make a good point. Like this should be sent. Like someone like what Mark Ratner used to do to Jeff Mullins. I saw Andy Foster's well gone on Aria last week, and just being a complete yes man. Like, and I like Andy Foster, but this sort of stuff doesn't really help anyone. Like the biggest issue with judges and refs and commissions for a good long while now has been their communication, and they're like horrendously bad at communicating. But to go on a show and just agree with nonsense that people are saying in some realms, now it's not all of us nonsense obviously, but like it's to me it's just senseless, and it hurts the situation really. So I think it's a major problem, like everyone else, the fouls in it. Now I might have a bit of a solution. We'll talk about that during the week maybe on another show, but yeah, I think it was madness altogether. And it wasn't the only one, Ian. There was like there was madness altogether. The Chris Dione fight, was it the Billy Elicana fight, where it was a rear naked choke and it went on for fucking ages, and he didn't step in to stop it at the right time. Just absolutely ridiculous altogether. Like again, terrible refereeing. But look, these things happen in MMA.
Yeah, I mean, like it's crazy. I kind of said it to you last night as well. Even though, look, it's hard to get up for a card like this. Not too many big names on, a couple of good fights throughout the card as well. But my goodness, it definitely threw up a couple of big talking points last night. I'm sure we'll get into a few more now as well.
Yes, let's get into the other big talking point, and that was the Isaac Dulgarian Valle fight. Which was so. If you haven't seen this, so there was a lot of people online talking about this. The betting line drastically changed in the hours before the fight, but in especially the hour before the fight as well, where a lot of people bet on Del Valle for the first round finish. I think Caesars in America and another betting company as well have actually given back the money placed on Dulgarian in this. So there's something going on here, right? There's something sus going on. Whether it's like, what's the first thing you think of? Is this a fixed fight? Look, we don't know. Hopefully that'll be investigated and we'll find out. Could it be a thing like someone find out Dulgarian was injured and it spread around and everyone betting it? That wouldn't be at all unusual, I think, in mixed martial arts, and like not right, but less nefarious than a fixed fight. But watching the fight, Ian, I've seen a few people talk about this. This fight did not look right. Like it looked sus as hell. Like Dulgarian, again, whether it was an injury or whether it was a fixed fight, he was not defending the way you would expect a fit and proper mixed martial artist to defend. It was the movements out of him. Like his opponent was obviously not absolutely amazing, and I felt, there was a situation where he got towards the end where he got the rear naked choke and he had like his hands on the canvas, and it's like the last thing you would ever do. And there was like a few situations where
lots of things, failure to strip the hand,
yes,
almost making movements to goad his opponent into actually choking him as well. And like it was like quite the opposite of what you expect to see in that position. Dulgarian wanted appeared to want to be choked, and his opponent didn't really appear to want to choke him either at the same time, or was finding it hard to do it. So look at real red flags racing up on this. And I think it was just before the fight kicked off here, some kind of doubts and tweets came out saying that there was some big movement in the lines as well. Del Valle obviously undefeated as well, so I mean, I think there was big alarm bells going on there, and I'm interested to see like where the investigations go. There's got to be investigations in, like, obviously when it comes to gambling and the accusation of a fixed fight. The betting companies, they want to probably look into that. I'm sure the FBI will look into it too. We've seen it happen before with James Krause and everything like that. And I think, am I right in saying Dulgarian did have once ties with Krause?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. Did he? I didn't hear that. Now that wouldn't be great for anyone involved, really, would it? But
he's from Kansas City, Missouri. Anyway,
well, there you go. That's one tie, I suppose. Ronda Rousey. So.
Maybe I thought I saw a picture of him. Look, I don't want to be labeling James Krause as being any further part of this as well, but I mean, similar enough to what we've seen in that fight too. But this didn't I think in that fight, the original one, I can't remember the actual fight itself, but it was definitely an injury.
Was an injury, yeah. That's still going on. And how long? That must be 2 or 3 years ago at this.
I think Jeff Molina is kind of sucked into that and kind of suspended.
Something like that. Yeah. So there was a lot of madness went on there, but yeah, there was definitely something sus.
It didn't look like an injury though. It didn't look like an injury. Just looked like an unwillingness to compete.
Yeah. The only thing could it be a back injury or something like that, where like literally someone's struggling to? Now I'm not making excuses for the guy here, or anything, but you know what? Like, again, all this is pure speculation, and we're not throwing out any allegations here or anything, but only we're looking at the facts of what happened. I think, like, questions, as you said, I don't know where the FBI will be called in or what sort of things they'll do, but just one more point I would throw into as well, Ian. Like, if anyone's calling, and I said this about PFL a couple of weeks ago as well, when there was some idiots out there, saying the Paul Hughes fight was fixed and all. The PFL had nothing to do with that, and the UFC have absolutely nothing to do with this as well. I can assure that the UFC make enough money out of this; they would absolutely have no interest in fixing fights. So, I'd put that one on the back burner as well. But there was definitely, like, the weird thing about this is we've all heard about guys being injured, or like I've interviewed lads and they had the fucking flu a week before, and I'm like, Jesus, like what's what's going on there?
Man in Brazil who came out with clearly a broken hand.
Like a couple of weeks ago. So
didn't throw the right hand once.
No, mad things like this happen. At least with that one though, and like the TJ Dillashaw one, it's like I'm gonna attempt to fry through it, maybe try to win. Is this that? It didn't look like that, but again, those questions need to be asked. Other than that, the card, I suppose the Norman Dumont Ketlen Vieira fight on the undercard was the controversial one, where the decision went to Dumont. It could have gone either way, really. I was happy with it going to Dumont. I'll be honest, because that's the sort of judging decision I want to see, because like. And again, don't get me started in the commentary here, Ian, but I think last night might have been the worst commentary in the history of the UFC. Bisping and Fitz and Cormier together. Oh my God, it's so atrocious. Bisping, again, he said it was 100% correct to restart the Delia Wilder Cortez Acosta fight. This Norman Dumont Ketlen Vieira fight, there was a takedown at 1:29 left in the second round. And they go, that won the round. That won the round. No,
I was surprised that even Din Thomas coming on to say that,
I'm not surprised with him either.
Dumont needs to work up a lead there, because she doesn't need to get taken down at the end of the round and get the round taken away from her. And I was like, and Din Thomas is normally very good when he comes in and analyzes fights and never really gets kind of sucked into any of that. But the takedown is one thing, but you have to do something with the takedown, and there was very little done. You're struggling with the microphone there.
I'm not nearly lost my second eye there.
You're going to need another patch. Just horrible analysis in this, and it's like, the commentary booth substituting opinions instead of facts. You know what I mean? I thought the decision was a close one. I wouldn't have been majorly upset if Ketlen Vieira had got it, but I definitely did score it myself for Norma Dumont. I think, she lost the first round. I think she won the second and she won the third rounds as well. Second being really, really close, that being said. But, I thought we were kind of gone past this opinion that was being spread out, the narrative that's trying to be created in the booth of takedowns win fights. I think DC did an excellent job the week before last. And then, kind of slipped into it. But I guess, the company you're in, I think, kind of dictates the level of opinion you may have on fights sometimes.
100%, because this was awful. It was mostly Bisping in that fight, in fairness. Like, Vieira did a bit when she got on the ground, but he said, like, she had won the round because of the takedown before she did anything. Like, again, a Vieira card there is not bad at all, but like I think Demont had done enough on the feet to win it, and just one of those again. But not, I thought it was a good fight. I thought it was a good enough technical fight. Now you'd be worried about Demont, I suppose, and her takedown defense. I said last week she might have to beat Nicola Harrison, but after watching that now, I might have to retract that a little bit. We'll see on that.
Yeah, I think she does what she does best. I think what won her this fight was the racking up of her combinations. You know what I mean? Finding her range and landing with her 3s and 4s and 5s and her straight punches. And I think Caitlin Vieira, in certain ways, it's kind of ironic the way they were saying Norma Donant needed to do more, but she wasn't doing very much on the feet herself. Caitlin Vieira wasn't doing too much on the feet herself as well.
Yeah.
I feel if Caitlin Vieira had been a little bit more open with her striking, that it probably would have went her way as well. But I know we were kind of complaining that this was on the undercard, but I think it was probably justified in the end because it wasn't.
I thought it was all right. I thought it was better than something like there was a lot of low quality stuff in this. Like my analysis that the more submissions that are on a card, the less quality is, or the other way around. The less quality is, the more submissions you will have really played through on this, because Alan Carr, I don't know if you've been watching the Celebrity Traders, but he's been very good. Oh no, wait, it's Talita Alan Carr. She won by submission. Dante Johnson won by submission. Cedric Dumas kind of gave up and quit there again. Hopefully that's the end of that scumbag in the UFC. Elikan, as we mentioned, won by submission. Nascimento, you called that last week, I think, won by submission. Radke won by submission. The Del Valle won by submission. So yeah, there was a lot of them in this. But let's get to the main event. Actually, just before that, Timber Grimbo, after taking a year off, thinking maybe he'll improve. God almighty, he looked atrocious in this fight. Like Jeremiah Wells, not a great fighter himself, but he went. I just wanted to mention that as well. But the main event, Jesus,
he could have Timber Grimbo. Yeah. If he stays fighting like that, The Rock might come back and take the house off him.
That'd be so fucking funny. Well, I think
knocking the door.
He was in Florida, wasn't he? And he gave that, and I think he moved to fucking Vegas then after that. So I don't know.
I think
he's probably
bad thing about that for him is that he kind of got beaten at his own game as well, got taken down and got dominated. I know he had an all right start, but Jeremiah Wells kind of just overtook the fight and was purely dominant. And it wasn't a great performance at all from a guy who's taken a year out. You think he's maybe going to level up a little bit, but it didn't really look that good at all.
Look bad. Who didn't look bad though was Steve Garcia in the main event, and we spoke about this during the week, watched a bit of tape, and I thought this would be a very, very good fight, and I picked Garcia coming in, but I knew it was a bad matchup for Onama, but I didn't think he'd run through him this easily. Like Onama barely landed a punch throughout the fight. Steve Garcia just came forward. That volume we spoke about last week was a massive thing for him in this fight, and then the power. I think this was one of those fights, Ian, like Onama really tried his best. He tried to establish his range. He tried to get his jab going. He threw it an awful lot. But it was just, again, horrendous matchup for him. And he just succumbed to it, I think, in the end. I think there was a little bit of like, fuck. He realized maybe after about a minute, or maybe a little bit longer, like I can't do anything here. I can't win this fight. And I think again a little bit of, I don't know, was a panic necessarily set in, but like it was just sometimes like an avalanche of negativity in terms of what you can, or in this case can't do, and what your opponent is doing.
Situation, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. And he just got overcome by it. That's not the word, but anyway, you know what I mean. And Garcia just destroyed it, and this was all down to Garcia, like, because again, Onama tried his best, but Garcia, that volume, that ability to dominate range, and that power as well. I'm a big fan of Steve Garcia, and this is some performance, isn't it?
Great performance. Like, he went out and does what he does best. He probably looked himself in the mirror and said, "You have to be yourself. You can't be no one else." And he must have been feeling supersonic when he walked out to the cage last night, because he put on a hell of a performance. First UFC main event. A lot of fighters, they can let that go into their heads. You know what I mean? It's like, you're going out there, it's a big moment, and whatever I'll hold my hand up. Sometimes I'm critical of these cards and everything like that, but at the end of the day, Steve Garcia and David Onama, that was their first UFC headline event. And I don't care when you're growing up as a fighter and everything like that. With that being said, in being in the Apex, not being in the Apex Steve Garcia and Onama will always be able to say that they headline the UFC card, right? And it's a big deal. And sometimes that moment might get to some fighters. They might want to change up their game plan. We were talking about Steve Garcia as is he going to start as hard, because will he be able to maintain it over the course of 5 rounds? He didn't care. He went out and absolutely did what he has been doing for the last number of fights and absolutely steamrolled Onana. And that's a belief in his abilities. And I think it's the perfect style for him. Like, he's just a buzzsaw. And he got off he found his range early, got off all of his strikes early, and took the belief and took the want of the fight from Onama. And, his shot selection, to finish the fight too. Didn't go head hunting, shoot in an odd body shot here or there. Like, really, really good performance. And I think he's on a 6-fight win streak now. And, we said that this was definitely an audition between two of these guys for someone who's going to get a pretty big fight next. And Steve Garcia is going to get that opportunity. And, he'll be rewarded with a top 10 opponent, I would hope, after that performance. And, I think he'll be a difficult nut to crack though. He's been passing all these tests with flying colors, so I'm interested to see what kind of challenge that they might give him in the top 10. Would you have any ideas who you'd like to see him in there with? Someone like maybe
Josh Emmett, I was thinking maybe someone like that.
Emmett would be a good one. It's very interesting. It's very interesting to see what will happen to Steve Garcia.
I'll be honest. He called out Max Holloway afterwards, and look, that's a fight that's very, very unlikely to happen. But it's also a fight that I would love to see. Like, that'd be a really, really fun fight. Like, at this stage, obviously, look, it's a little bit early where he's still in the rankings and all, but like, there's plenty of options there. Like, I think Yusuf Zalal would be a good fight, but like, after his win, he's probably moving up a little bit as well. But again, like, what about him versus John Silva? Like, John Silva ranked number 10 at the moment. That'd be real fun. Even like, I don't know, would you put him up as far as Aljamain Sterling, but there's a lot of fun fights there to be made from even Patricio Pitbull right above him. Like, he would force Patricio out the fight, and that could turn into an unreal fight as well. But I think massive upping of, I suppose, a lot of people's thoughts on Steve Garcia after this. Like, look, it wasn't the best of cards, and look, it wasn't the sexiest, as I said last week, of headliners, but I went back and I watched Steve Garcia. I was very, very impressed by him, and again, very impressed by him after this performance. So all in all, look,
that's why you put him in the main event entity. He has that style that he's able to produce knockouts, and it's an exciting style. I mean, time will tell. Will that particular style come back to bite him in the ass when he faces the upper echelon of the division? Like, you'll definitely come across fighters that are going to be able to withstand that level of pressure, forward movement as well, and like, he won't be always able to rely on that. So I'm interested to see if he has other things in the locker that he can produce when he faces off against higher level opposition.
100%. Like, I'll not look. It wasn't the worst card ever, but Dana White came out this week and it was basically saying, don't judge a card till it's over and all that. But like, again, there's some logic in MMA, isn't there? Really, like, the whole point of it is like we judge it beforehand to know if we'll actually tune in and watch it or buy the pay-per-view or whatever it might be. And as well, like this one, even if there was knockout submissions, fights of the year on this card, a lot of people didn't watch, and like, so many of the fights just didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And in a world where there's so many fights and so many fighters and all, you can't blame a person for saying like, this fight doesn't matter to them. Now, to the actual fighters themselves, massive, it's the biggest thing in their life. But to like the people watching the sport, the fans of the sport and all, it's just not. It's simply like some of these fights on the undercard are not the same as watching, a Yusuf Zalal fight or a Volkanovski fight or, a top 10 fight. Like, the fight in the main event mattered. The Mont Vieira fight really, really mattered to people who are interested in the sport. But almost nothing else really did in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, to not judge a fight card before it is just absolute nonsense. Like, that's what we do. Like, people have their opinions, and their opinion is to watch it or not, or to like it or not, and like, the vast majority of people didn't, and it actually doesn't matter what happens. Like, if it's a great card, great. If it's not a great card, like, who really cares anyway? So like, it's just
I think that's down to the consumer. Whatever the consumer thinks of what he's consuming or she's consuming, I think it's fair game to give your opinion and how you truly feel about something. So
indeed. And speaking of that, let's talk about Ronda Rousey. There was a lot of talk about Ronda Rousey this week. She went on Bert Kreischer's podcast, and now I wouldn't say that I went and I watched 2 hours or whatever it was of Ronda Rousey and Bert Kreischer talking. That mightn't be exactly my seed, but we all, I suppose, saw the clips of it and everything. And, you know, Ronda has her opinions, and she's basically saying the same thing she always says. But here's my opinion on Ronda Rousey, right? So after Ronda lost, she felt like everybody turned on her, and after her loss, she didn't really want to speak to anyone. She didn't want to do any interviews and everything. And I think, like, a lot of the people who she maybe had been doing interviews with before, or, you know, shows she had gone on, or, you know, like, was it Fox at the time or ESPN or whatever, we weren't seeing her there anymore. And I think the narrative turned from, like, the people like, oh, this champion talked to me once and now she'll no longer talk to me. And then a lot of the narrative going around about her was negative, and a lot of people said a lot of bad things about her. Whereas, like, most champions who've just lost in that situation, we'll see, like, oh, can they come back? Can they make a comeback? Where a lot of it with Ronda Rousey was like, she was never that good anyway. And then the fans started doing that, and that became like the narrative almost. Whereas I would look at it very, very differently. Like, did Ronda react well to her? Look, especially the first loss, I suppose, against Holly Holm. Absolutely not. You know, did she, you know, the interviews like, say, Dominic Cruz has done, or other people have done, where they come out and they're gracious? Absolutely. But, like, whose right is that? Like, who actually, like, has a right to demand Ronda Rousey speaks or reacts? Well, she reacted the way she reacted, and that's that. And okay, it's the fans' prerogative as well to not like that reaction, no doubt about it.
Was it around Amanda Nunes fight as well, where she refused to do media before?
There was a lot of talk about that she wouldn't do media when she came back for that fight, and she didn't really do much or any media. So,
and I want to go on before I say what I say. I have massive respect for Ronda Rousey here, but I think, you know, I definitely get what you're saying as well. I think media obligations on fight week would be, you know, maybe doing a press conference, which she refused to do before that fight. And I think that kind of went against her as well in terms of opinion. Not that anybody is owed anything. You're definitely right in saying that. But I would wonder how many other fighters would love to get that luxury of not having to go out and speak to the media. Because on fight week, I think, you know, a lot of fighters don't really want to do it, but it's an obligation, Shawnee. And I think, all right, whatever happens after the fight, I think that's fair game. I think, you know, there is a certain level of obligation to do some level of fight week media as well. Even if you come out and say, you know, I don't want to talk to the media today, you know, come out and do a 1 or 2 minute spiel and head on back in as well. I don't know. I think that definitely rubbed up a lot of people the wrong way. I didn't buy into it too much at the time.
Ronda's like, John Jones has done the same thing. Conor McGregor has done the same thing. Like, when you're one of the biggest stars and, like, you're special like that, you get special treatment, and that's a fact. And, like, that sort of thing for either of them, even though they've done things that are a lot worse than anything Ronda Rousey's ever done, have not turned for them, because like I think the general narrative hasn't really turned on them for, you know, some of the biggest voices in the sport. And I like, the thing about this is, I actually don't mind if you, like, if your opinion on Ronda Rousey is you don't like her because she stopped doing interviews, and you once loved her and you once loved her honesty, and I've absolutely no problem with that. My only issue is people analysing her career based on that. I'm with a bias because of that. Like, Ronda Rousey, look, she was a standard bearer at a certain time in mixed martial arts. She was the yardstick. She was the very, very, very best. And yes, she was overtaken, and better fighters came, and more dominant fighters came, and Amanda Nunes, the greatest female fighter we've ever seen, beat her and basically held the belt ever since, except for one hiccup, and in one hiccup of retirement as well. #MMA retirement. That was always going to happen because she was the greatest of all time. That doesn't mean Ronda Rousey wasn't great. Like, just because we have Alex Pereira now or John Jones or whatever, it doesn't mean Frank Shamrock wasn't great or Chuck Liddell or Tito Ortiz weren't great for their time. It's just a very, very different time. And for Ronda Rousey, there's no doubt about it. She was one of the most dominant fighters of all time. Like, people used to compare her to Mike Tyson, and they were right. Like, that's what she was. She was a person who was go in there, and, you know, people used to say, oh, I'll get this in a fucking Instagram reel, or I'll get this in a TikTok or whatever. It's going to be that short, and we knew she'd win that quickly. That Ronda Rousey was amazing for a long time. And to now look back and go, she was never that good and she got overtaken. That's bullshit. Yes, she got overtaken, but she was good at her time. She was dominant in her time. She was amazing for what she did. Like, I've been going back watching these UFC title fights, and like, Randy Couture doesn't know how to do a fucking rear naked choke. He doesn't know how to do a head and arm choke at a time. And Randy Couture is probably one of the most respected fighters of all time and became an absolutely unbelievable fighter and beat some great people. You know, but he was the best. He became the world champion at that time when I was watching that fight against Maurice Smith. It doesn't mean that Randy Couture isn't. Is that a spoiler? Is that next week? No, maybe not, actually. No, it was last week. But a spoiler from fucking 30 years ago. But I don't know. People, like, again, Ronda Rousey said something on that interview that I totally agree with. She said people don't have a respect for the history of mixed martial arts. And now she said it in a bit of a cock-handed way, I suppose, with a lot of other things. But that point on so on is right, Ian, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, I definitely think it's right. And I definitely think everything that you have said about her legacy in mixed martial arts is correct as well. But when you're talking about not respecting history of mixed martial arts and then just so offhandedly and confidently calling yourself the greatest fighter of all time as well, when she clearly isn't, because she got beaten by the greatest fighter of all time, which is Amanda Nunes, which I do think is a level of disrespect to Amanda Nunes. And then she made a couple of weird comparisons to, you know, how fans have treated Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture and George St. Pierre, right? George St. Pierre left as the middleweight champion of the world. Yes. I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about George St. Pierre or Randy or Chuck. So there is a level of bitterness there. I think, you know, what you've said and her unfair criticism is definitely unjust, and I would agree with that. But still, the comments that she has made in more recent times are definitely not doing her any favors in terms of what people think of her. And
I agree.
I think, you know, she did let herself down more in recent times than she ever has before in terms of what media. Maybe that's why she decided not to do media, because, you know, she every time she opens her mouth, it seems like there's some criticism coming. But I do think that you cannot let your judgment be clouded on what she achieved in the sport, like how much she propelled women's mixed martial arts and how excited that we were when she was fighting on a card. Like, you know, I remember watching I think it was the SevereMMA fight, and one of my buddies, we were up, I was living in Ireland at the time, we were up watching, it was like 5:15, 5:20 in the morning. He's like, oh, I'm just going to run out to the toilet here. And I was like, I wouldn't if I were you, man. And he did. And he came back and the fight was over. And it was like, that's what a Ronda Rousey fight was. It was like it. And it was a great ride to be on. But, you know, I agree with everything you had to say in terms of her legacy, but I really do think she has let herself down with the most recent moments where they just don't. It's a little bit delusional, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I put out a tweet there, but maybe about a year ago, and I retweeted it there the other day. Like, she's never been able to admit to herself that she's not the greatest, not the best of all time. Now, she does have you could say she's the greatest of all time, because greatness is very different from best. Like, Demetrius Johnson is the best fighter of all time, but is he the greatest? It's kind of hard to argue that one. Whereas Ronda Rousey, what she achieved is greatness. Like, there's now maybe you could argue Amanda Nunes is greater, but there is definitely an argument to be made there for Ronda. But the thing about it is, Ronda Rousey didn't have the ability to get knocked down and get back up again. And she had other options, and she split and she left. And, you know, she mentioned Khabib and said people, you know, suck Khabib's dick because he went out undefeated. I actually think it's the other way around. To your point about Randy and Chuck and those lads as well. I think, and I say this, and a lot of people said, like, because Habib left, he wasn't able to prove that he was the greatest of all time. He could have gone on and maybe done it, but the fact he retired early means he left it too early, and he couldn't go on and prove he's the greatest of all time. So I think it's actually the opposite of what she says. Like I wouldn't call Ronda Rousey like an expert in MMA. She's an expert in the sport, but in like all around MMA. And she did take a shot at Joe Rogan, though, which I enjoyed.
She's clearly out of touch. I mean, the shot at Joe Rogan was very fucking smart, if we're being honest. It's good. That's good PR. Like, I mean, I'd pick up all the headlines. Does she have a book out now or something? Is it? Or
I don't know, actually. I don't know. Yeah, she left WWE anyway, so I don't know if she's going to go back there or not. But she's been training. I would like, and Burke Reiter asked her, would she go back for $1 million or $1 billion and all, and I don't know. She was very non-committal anyway, so we'll see. We'll see if she comes back.
If I had any advice for Ronda Rousey, Shawnee, it would be, don't look back in anger.
Yeah. I was going to definitely maybe. Right. One or two more things before we go. Speaking of women's MMA and greats, Larissa Pacheco is now a free agent after PFL let her go. I don't know about you, but I think the UFC should sign her straight away. I have an idea. How about Norma Dumont versus Larissa Pacheco, number one contender fight? Whoever wins that, put them on the card. The headline in the prelims or whatever it might be of the Amanda Nunes and Kayla Harrison fight. I think it makes so much sense. What do you think? Like, it's surely a non-brainer signing for the UFC.
Oh, 100%. Like, I mean, obviously there's history there with Kayla Harrison. Obviously, Kayla beat her a couple of times, but Larissa got the last win over her. So, there's a good narrative that you could set there. Look, she'd have to cut the weight, but, Kayla Harrison has been able to do it. So I don't think that Larissa Pacheco would be in a position where she wouldn't be able to do it either. How does it affect her? Obviously, we had those questions about Kayla, but I think she'd be good. I think
she can definitely make that weight. She had to go up and up and up to get Ronda Rousey. Like, she can definitely make bantamweight, no doubt about it. Or to Kayla Harrison, sorry. Definitely make it.
Yeah. And I mean, look, at the bantamweight division needs fresh talent in there as well, and it'd be very interesting to see. Look, at obviously Nunes is coming back. What happens between Nunes and Kayla Harrison? I'd be very interested to watch Pacheco versus Nunes, as I would be Pacheco against Kayla Harrison as well. So I think it is a no-brainer. Hopefully they do it. And why not just put it on the same card as Nunes and Kayla Harrison whenever it happens? Put her in there with Norma Dumont or somebody along that lines as well. So I'm all here for it.
Indeed. All right, everyone. We will leave it there. We're going to talk about next week's cards during the week. Obviously, we'll have a preview show this week. That'll be out Wednesday or Thursday, and we'll talk about that going forward. Not the best of cards in the world, but a couple of weeks after that, then we have another massive UFC pay-per-view, and I'm looking forward to talking about that. But for now, thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you're not listening, the Owl Triangle is out this week again, Ian, isn't it? Out Wednesday.
The Owl Triangle will be out Wednesday this week.
So check that out on YouTube and SoundCloud and Spotify and everywhere else. You get your podcast. Follow Ian at IO'Neill MMA. Don't bother following me. And if you would like to sign up to Patreon, it's the second of the month now, so the perfect time to sign up. Patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. Right, Ian? Have you a quote for us to end it?
You said that you'd never been. All the things that you've seen that slowly drift away.
Beautiful. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck.